Greetings, everyone. Welcome to the Drobo Broadcast Network. My name is Mario Blandini at Drobo, and today we're talking about cloud and approaches to offsite backup for small businesses that can be easy and affordable. One thing is true, cloud doesn't have to be all or nothing, and we have a special guest with us today, Pete Lamson. He's Senior Vice President and General Manager of the Small Business Division at Carbonite. How you doing today, Pete?
I'm doing very well. Thanks, Mario. It's great to be here.
We're happy to have you because Carbonite is arguably the most well-known name in cloud-based backup, and you guys provide backup for consumers, and you're one of America's fastest-growing companies 2 years in a row, which is really cool. The abstract for today's session is that data protection, when you think about it, starts when you have your primary copy very well protected. But you have to back things up in order to make sure that you can survive the inevitable things that happen with your data. And it's important to have data in multiple locations and multiple different media types in order to ensure that protection. That's where offsite backup comes in. So this episode is going to discuss approaches to cloud-based backup and give you some tips and tricks on how smaller offices with multiple computers, as well as offices that have a server or two, how they can leverage offsite backup. Now, Pete, you've been doing this for a couple decades now, and you're the top man over there for the Small Business Division at Carbonite. Tell us a little bit about your design center and how Carbonite goes about providing services for small businesses.
Well, Carbonite has been backing up consumers and now small businesses since 2006. We have backed up literally over 100 billion files for our customers. We have restored 7 billion files for consumers who had lost files. In other words, those files would have gone missing from their business and managing their business every single day very difficult. So it's what we do, and in fact, it's all we do. And how we go about doing this, as you suggested, is through cloud-based backup. And I know as we're going to get into this today, we'll talk through the details of specifically what that is. But put very simply, it is set it and forget it computer backup. So in addition to making certain you're backing up locally through your Drobo, you also want to back up offsite, and cloud-based online backup provides a very simple and cost-effective way to back up your data on your office computers, real-time, 24/7 with set it and forget it technology.
All right, well, go to the next slide and talk about why you need backup. And we don't want to be too dramatic, but the image in the upper right-hand corner shows things that can happen. And throughout the presentation, we'll talk about the things that small businesses want to protect themselves against. But I think a startling fact that I learned in researching this particular broadcast with you, Pete, is that 7 out of 10 small businesses experience some data loss due to some reason. That's a lot, but the scarier thing is 40% of small businesses that do lose data in a disaster never actually reopen. So this is one of the things that you help customers with, right?
Well, that's correct. And, you know, while that picture is dramatic that you see in the slide there, that's from a fire in Worcester, Massachusetts, in a downtown office building that was filled with small businesses. And a very common, I guess we're all human beings, and you have we all have an attitude of, well, gosh, it can't happen to me. But the reality is, it happens to a lot of us. And while it may not be quite as dramatic as you see in that picture, 7 out of 10 businesses do lose data. And it can happen through something as simple as an accidental deletion or a hardware problem, but it also can happen in things such as natural disasters. I mean, heck, just this year we've seen hurricanes, we've seen fires, we've seen wildfires. I mean, anything you can imagine, we're seeing it all over the United States right now. So it's important to make certain that your business is protected in the event of a disaster or a theft even. I grew up in a small business. My dad was a dentist, and his medical records and his patients' records were the lifeblood of what put food on our table. And businesses need to take great care in protecting that data to ensure their longevity.
Which is why the best practice for any business, for that matter, but particularly small businesses, is to think of backup as a 3-2-1 approach. Start with reliable primary storage, and folks who know Drobo know that we protect that first copy really well with our Beyond RAID technology, so you're protected from disk drive failures. But the 3-2-1 is really to help you ensure that if you want to keep something, you do need at least 3 copies of it, and you would need that at least on 2 different devices. The part that people have the biggest problem with, which is why we're happy to talk to you today, Pete, is that one copy of the data needs to be in a location that's specifically offsite to protect from a site loss or to protect from other errors that might be human or environmental that would cause your other backup copies not to be accessible. And we'll give a little bit more information about what some of those examples are. But it is a belt and suspenders approach. You may think that you only need one copy because that's good enough, but when you're talking to small businesses, how many of them trust that the one backup copy they have is going to be restorable? I mean, what's your general consensus there, Pete?
Well, there's A, is it going to work? Is it going to be restorable? Secondly, human nature comes into play here. And if I'm a small business and I've got an external hard drive or a thumb drive or CDs or DVDs I think I'm going to back up my business on every night and take them home with me so I have that off-site protection you're referring to, I may do that for a period of time, but over time the frequency with which I bring my data home every night or have one of my employees do it for me tends to slow down. And that's why just making this or making certain that your off-site backup is done in a very, very simple manner is really a much better way to back up your business.
Going on to the next slide around the basic architecture, what you'll need are likely the things that are already in place. Folks have their computers, they have servers, they almost certainly have a network that connects the devices and as well connects them to the internet. And cloud-based backup doesn't necessarily eliminate the need for a local storage full backup, particularly if you have a lot of different types of data that aren't as critical but take up a lot of space. The cloud, though, is a great place because it provides 2 advantages. One is that automatic agent. You talked about it being completely automatic. It protects critical data sets that you have configured. But also, once it's in the cloud, you can access it from just about anywhere. Do you find a lot of small businesses like this benefit, Pete, where from a tablet or a smartphone or any computer, they can access those when they're away from their office?
That is one of the big benefits of using online-based backup, in that not only is your business backed up, but you're adding a level of utility to your backup. So if I have just left my office and I'm on the train ride home, or if I'm at home after I've had dinner and put the kids to bed, I can log into Carbonite, and literally every single file that I have backed up at my office is available through anytime, anywhere access. And this can be if you're at home, it can be if you're traveling on vacation, need to access a file. We've probably all had the experience of going to see an important client and a file that you wish you had with you that you either forgot or didn't think was going to be important at the time is back at the office. Well, when you're backed up through online backup, you're never without that file. You simply log in and your entire business backup is a couple of mouse clicks away. So point is, it's not just backup. You're adding an entire new level of utility with online backup that wasn't previously available.
Going to the next slide and talking about what backup is for a small business, we know that it's time-consuming and complicated, and you touched on, Pete, the repeatability aspect of it. It's not reliable when it's not repeatedly done every single day, and the easiest way to do that would be to have it done automatically. There's also so many options to choose from on ways to go about doing it. So simplicity really is the key to a reliable strategy. What do we feel an SMB needs from a backup? It's the easy operation you talked about, and fast recovery from common losses. So it's not often that someone has to restore all their data. You talked about 7 billion, and I was correct, billion with a B, files. Most of those aren't the entire site. A lot of it's just selective restoration in the event of the need to restore. Right, Pete?
That's correct. So if you need to access a file, whether it's just through anytime, anywhere access, again, you're at a client's office and you need a file, or you accidentally deleted a file, or you had one of your computers go down in your office, you can log into an online to Carbonite or your online backup provider and restore those missing files to the device you're on in a matter of seconds. So it makes accessing and restoring your data extremely easy on a file-by-file basis where needed. Again, another benefit that you don't have from more traditional backup methods, whether it's flash drives or CDs or DVDs and so forth. And one of the great things about online backup is if your computer that you're backing up is turned on and you have internet access, you are backing up real time. So there's no you don't have to remember to back up every night before you go home. You don't have to take anything home with you. It's literally if your computer's on and you're connected to the internet, you're real time backing up.
Well, it shows here that accidental deletion is the number one cause, and it makes sense. That would be the number one cause as a common loss. Hard drive failure, something that Drobo protects you from, is very common. So Drobo customers will appreciate that having multiple hard drives virtualized into a large hard drive that never fails and never gets full is an important characteristic of preventing data loss. But you've got viruses here. Natural disasters represent a very small amount of the data loss. But no matter what the case is, Pete, having your select critical files backed up in the cloud protects them from all of these things. So it really is that belt and suspenders type of protection.
That's right. And the interesting thing, Mario, with natural disaster is while it's only 3%, it's one of the things that happens with natural disaster is if you have a natural disaster, your data loss is typically total. Whereas with accidental deletion, it may be just a file here or a file there. And, hey, losing data is never good, whether it's one file or your entire office. But with natural disaster, while, again, it's the least frequent of the occurrences, it's generally speaking your complete office.
Well, and this is one of the reasons why for large amounts of data, folks might be wondering, how is it that I could use cloud for a Drobo? As we go to the next slide, leveraging cloud for offsite backup. People are concerned with cost of protecting expanding data set, and with Drobo, you can back up a lot of data onto a Drobo, but you need to have another Drobo offsite and rotate that offsite or copy to it offsite in order to have the offsite protection. So you can, as a part of your 3-2-1 strategy for backup, include one of those copies as to a Drobo, one of those copies as a media that you can take off-site, but then select files of large data sets or the whole data set in the case of a smaller one to a cloud-based provider. So the cost of protecting an expanding data set can be addressed, Pete, in the form of annual plans, because folks might think that if they go with cloud, they might have runaway costs. But the way Carbonite does is you sign up for an annual plan that gives you a set amount for your backup. How do customers normally budget for or think about financing their cloud-based backup?
So great question. And one of the benefits of online backup is it is extremely affordable for small businesses if you purchase a small business targeted product. A lot of different companies, a lot of our competitors will have different pricing plans. But a good company will make budgeting for your online backup very easy and very simple. And I can speak to Carbonite. Again, there are others out there, but Carbonite, for example, you can back up an unlimited number of computers in your office up to a total of 250 gigabytes for just $229 per year. So for literally the cost of a nice lunch for your office, you can back up your entire business for a year. Includes U.S.-based support, even includes having one of our technical representatives, should you require this level of assistance, install it on your computers for you. So it's very simple. It's easy to budget because it's a set fixed cost for a year, and it's highly affordable.
I know that folks often are concerned with performance over their WAN or to the cloud because as a small business, they might, based on their geography or based on their budget, have a fairly small connection by business grade standards to the internet. So for those situations, there is this constant backup. But if they wanted to protect their bandwidth during the day for their voice calls or for other sort of applications, you can set up a custom backup schedule so that the backup only happens during off-peak hours. How do you see most businesses approaching that if they have a concern about limited network bandwidth?
Great question. So most businesses do simply keep Carbonite running real time, meaning as soon as a file is created, it's backed up right away. However, there are some, as you suggest, that would prefer to not run their online backup during peak hours. So you can set those up for off-hour management, so that as long as your computers are on in the evenings and they're not going to sleep at night, all the files you either created or changed during the day are then backed up in the evening, and that's up to each individual business. I would say that online backup probably isn't ideal if you've got a dial-up access to the internet, if you're running your connectivity through a satellite. But as long as you've got, say, minimum bandwidth of 300 kilobytes per second, you're going to be in pretty good shape.
The ease of use is pretty straightforward. I think that there's lots of celebrities, be it Leo Laporte or others, that talk about Carbonite all the time as being very easy. They recommend it to people all over the place. And the main advantage there around concerns is the complexity, the getting the data offsite. It's addressed there. But I want to talk a little bit about management specifically, Pete, because I think a lot of folks understand the backup software that they're running, and they understand how to manage that and restore in the event of needing to there. But Carbonite does it without any server-based software. It's all done automatically. Talk a little bit about the management pane as I go here to the real-time status management, how someone would interact with this and what it provides them in terms of management.
Yeah, so what the dashboard shows you, as everyone can see on the screenshot, is it allows you to see kind of real time where your business is in the aggregate with their backup. In this example here, we're seeing, for example, is someone who has used 71% of their 250 gigabytes of space that comes with our $229 product. You can see the employees listed down below that have installed Carbonite on their computers. You can tell kind of where their backup status, whether they have a backup in progress or when their last backup was, if they've installed or not. And this allows the administrator, be it the small business owner, his or her IT professional, or the receptionist who might manage this, to very quickly and easy, in a very quick and easy fashion, make certain that the business is using Carbonite, is backing up their business properly. And what this is essentially replaces is what we talked about earlier. If I've got, I don't know, if I'm using a flash memory drive to back up my business, and my receptionist forgets to back up our company every night and bring it home, I don't really know that task every day is not being done unless I ask the receptionist if he or she is doing that every day. Here, through literally just clicking on a screen, I know what's happening, and I know that Joe Smith hasn't backed up his computer, so perhaps his computer hasn't been turned on, or he's not. Perhaps I need to talk to him about make sure you're backing up, make sure your computer's on, so that all your files are being properly backed up. So it in a very simple way just explains makes certain that the administrator knows how effectively their business is backed up. And you can also see in the top left picture or image here under the Carbonite sign that this business here has just begun their trial, which is another nice benefit you can receive with online backup, and that is a 30-day free trial to try the product with no kind of expense and just see if it's right for your business or not.
Fantastic. In terms of putting it all together here and a holistic SMB backup strategy that includes the 3-2-1 approach, the Carbonite Cloud Backup, specifically the Business or Business Premier offerings, can help with that one copy that you want to have in an offsite location. Architecturally, you'd want to have good primary storage. So we show you here an architecture where your Windows server, as an example, has local primary storage, whether an internal RAID or a Drobo, like a Drobo Pro or a Drobo iSCSI storage connected to it. We have on-site backup. That can be a iSCSI or a file sharing solution for getting that copy there locally. It'll enable very fast restores of lots of information in the event that you need to do it in that case. But it doesn't satisfy 100% the concept of having it off-site. There are technologies from Drobo that allow you to take that data off-site. In the example of our Drobo Sync capability for our B800FS product. But for some customers, that might not be the right fit, and something like cloud-based backup can be the perfect complement for protecting a set of critical files that they want to have accessible remotely and get the other benefits that Pete talked about during today's presentation. Now, Give me an idea, Pete, on the differences between Business Premier and Business. It seems that if you have a server involved, like a Windows server, you'd be looking for Business Premier because it then allows you to do unlimited desktops plus unlimited servers. Is there anything that's different about the installation process between the two versions, or do they both operate in mostly the same way?
They both operate in the same way. It's literally a couple of mouse clicks to download the software, which takes 2 or 3 minutes, and you're up and running. It's really that simple. The one other difference, Mario, between Business Premier and our standard business product is that we double the amount of storage that is covered in your business, and it covers up to 500 gigabytes of storage as opposed to 250 with our standard business product.
All right, we have a couple questions here online. Server-based applications like SQL that might be running on a Windows small business server. Does Carbonite have any agents built into that would allow for VSS integration or quiescing and online backup? Or do people have to go through a process of shutting their application down before they can do the offsite backup?
With SQL, what we do is we will actually make a copy of the backup. So if you back up locally, we will then back up your backup through Carbonite.
Great, and that takes the complexity of the integration out. Perform an online backup, and then you can take your backup offsite. Part of your 3-2-1 strategy of having 3 copies on 2 different devices, one of them at least being offsite. One note is that Carbonite Business and Carbonite Business Premier currently do not back up NAS devices or file sharing devices. So if you have Drobo file sharing products, or Drobo FS or B800FS, you won't be able to back up the data off those, but any of the direct attach or SAN Drobos, you can take data that's residing on those and provide extra protection by having a copy in the cloud there. We talked about the size of the internet connection. You mentioned 300K and above should give you a good idea on how to do it. Now, we often get questions. How long would it take you to restore 500 gig, assuming you had your Business Premier 100% full? That might take a while, but there are some ways to get it done faster, aren't there?
That's correct. And as you might expect, we get similar questions. And there's really 3 ways you can manage the restore process. First of all, if you've lost all 500 gigabytes and you need a file quickly, or a handful of files quickly, you can simply log into your online backup provider, download those that you need immediately in a matter of seconds. So if you've got pressing needs, it's a very, very rapid restore process. Secondly, if you need all 500 gig returned to you immediately, Carbonite offers a product called Rapid Recovery. And what this does is we will literally download all 500 gig onto a hard drive that day, overnight it to you. You'll have it the next day. So you can be completely up and running within about 24 hours, exactly as you were previously. And then the other way is if you're looking to restore this through an online restore and you want to have all 500 gigs streamed back to you just as you did in your upload process here, 500 gigabytes to restore would probably take roughly 60 days. It depends a little bit on your own internet connection and how fast that is, but about 60 days.
Now, Pete, there are options to buy more storage capacity for both of these offerings, 50 gig and 100 gig. Is the limit at 100 gig, or could someone even buy a terabyte of this if they were interested in doing so?
We have many clients that back up terabytes plural, so there's no limit to how much you can purchase.
Great. And so that pricing is linear, so you can look at the cost structure and compare it to other means of doing so and evaluate that as part of your overall strategy. Great to know.
Yeah, we're at for Carbonite Business for our add-on storage packs, we're at about 89 cents per gigabyte per year. A lot of and that's something you want your listeners will want to take or pay close attention to. There are a number of providers that will be, say, 50 cents per gig per month, which is $6 per year. So obviously, if you can do it for 89 cents, and there's other places that are great too, but 89 cents versus $6, when you're talking, a couple of terabytes of data, that's a material price savings.
For the on-premises, what does Drobo recommend specific to backing up PCs and servers for decentralized computing for that second copy that you might have local in your small office? And Drobo recommends a variety of different applications. If you're a Mac user, Time Machine built into the Mac environment works fantastic. Drobo also offers for our professional products a Drobo PC backup software that comes with Drobos, as well with our Drobo model B800 FS. But just about any backup application out there works very well with the Drobo because we are standard storage that appears to be storage to that server that's doing the backup or the clients that are doing the backup. And we're really affordable and easy to use in terms of scaling up the amount of capacity you have simply by adding hard drives or replacing smaller hard drives with larger ones. On the server backup side, if you're virtualized, we have a fantastic solution with Veeam backup and replication, as well as Semantic Backup Exec 2010 with deduplication. Those are both certified solutions, but we have customers using Cronus, Aperture, Commvault, and a variety of other applications here. Today's broadcast, we focused a little bit on cloud because there are some potential opportunities for you to look at using cloud as a part of the backup architecture. As easy it is to use, as Pete explained to us, as well as how it can be affordable to protecting some of that. We have a lot of questions here about folks who have 10 plus terabytes. So it'll be up to you to decide which parts you really need back. I know that for a lot of our media intense customers, that they might have their golden master creative products that are backed up into the cloud so they can get to them from anywhere and demo them at clients and otherwise see those sort of things. But then all of their working copies and the raw original sort of source material might be backed up only locally to prevent the more common sort of loss events. We have several questions of folks asking about Carbonite for Business supporting NAS, supporting a file sharing device like a Drobo FS. Do you have a roadmap for that, or are these offerings targeted mostly just for the storage that's inside a server or inside a computer?
Well, as a newly public company, Mario, I'm sadly now prohibited from making any future-looking statements as to what might or might not be on our roadmap. I wish I could share with you, but I will say that this is a request that we have heard and are certainly listening to.
All right. Well, with that, the key takeaways: hey, backup's a must, folks, and SMBs need an approach that is simple in order to do it repeatedly. And I appreciate comments from Pete that talk about the classic way of doing it, taking home media with employees and rotating it offsite. That is a valid approach, but it's one that's prone to a lot of errors and one that is really hard to be repeatable. So the reason why that cloud-based backup can be a great fit is that it provides that additional protection of offsite backup for critical files so you can recover them from a disaster, and it complements a 3-2-1 strategy where the Drobo would be a great fit for the local location for the data protection to give you primary storage that's very reliable, local backup that you can scale and also restore from very quickly, but then be a part of a holistic architecture. And at the prices you're talking about, Pete, it really is rather inexpensive insurance for your data. I mean, any parting comments that you have, being from a small business previously yourself, on just the overall approach to investing in backup?
I mentioned earlier when we started up, my dad was a dentist, and I remember when I was probably 12 years old or so, he had a flood in his office, and all of his patient records were soaked. Fortunately, all his X-rays and so forth were filmed, so while they got wet, they were okay. Today, all those medical images would be digital, and if there was a flood in his office, they would have been lost. And if you can think about the impact, if you're a medical office, and this pertains to many different industries, but if you're a medical office and you lose all of your patient X-ray records, that's going to put that's going to be a material impediment to the livelihood of your practice. And the nice thing now is, with all these images being digital, for $229, or in some cases $599 for an entire year, that risk is completely mitigated. So it's so affordable, it's so easy for us. We can't think of a reason why a business wouldn't do it.
Well, we believe that investing in a sophisticated storage device like a Drobo is another fantastic way to provide better assurance for your critical data assets, whether they be your personal ones or for a business. And part of a good data protection strategy is to have your stuff protected both on-site as well as off-site. So it's great to have you on the program today, Pete, to talk about the off-site backup piece. If folks are interested in getting more information about Carbonite for Business, you have an email address down there and some phone numbers where they can reach out and talk to somebody from your organization directly. And for the folks who are listening, not only can you download the product for free for 30 days and try it, but if you want to implement Carbonite at your business, if you go to info.drobo.com/Carbonite, there is a 2-month free offer. Get 14 months for the price of the 1 year and provide some even longer protection for that initial investment. I want to thank you for participating. And thanks again, Pete, for being our guest expert on today's program.
Thanks so much for having me, Mario.
Fantastic. Have a great day, everyone. We'll see you next time.